talk about everything under the sun as it relates to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Um, I feel like MJ Calloway, who's joining me today, is such a timely guest to have sharing her brilliance, just with everything that has come out in, it's not new, right? But health inequities, everything that has been exposed in a way that nobody can look away anymore.
Right.
With COVID, the past 15, 16 years, it feels like. So MJ, please introduce yourself, and then let's dig in on this topic.
All right. So I'm MJ Calloway. I prefer MJ. Actually, my name is Marsha, but I prefer MJ. I am the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at San Ysidro Health. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and we literally just met minutes ago. And I told you, because you talked with Teresa on our team, and she just said, you got to bring MJ on. The ideas that she has around this and the space that you're in, community health.
Yep.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you serve a community, what you've seen, because you've been in this role for a whopping 3 months.
3 months, 90 days. Yeah.
So you've also you have what I call fresh eyes. Where you're coming in and you can see things that people that have been in any sort of system or any sort of organization for a long time, they can't see it because they've been swimming in the water for so long. So I think even just sort of the fresh eyes perspective on this. So what has struck you the most in these first 90 days?
Well, in regards to San Ysidro Health, it's just astonishing to me the community impact that this health organization has. There's 35 locations from the border to north, not getting into LA, but maybe soon, and then east into the mountain area. And the impact San Ysidro Health has on the community, the service, the physicians, we do not turn anyone away, anyone. So if there's a situation, we have people that looks for grants, that looks for programs, but no one is ever turned away. And our impact in the community over the years, I mean, I've been there 90 days. This organization is almost 53 years old. It started at the border in a house. 7 women said, hey, we need health care, and brought in some physicians, and it's grown from there. But the impact San Ysidro Health has had on the communities and the health of those communities and serving the underserved population is so important. That is one of the reasons I'm big into community organizations. I work for the YMCA, which is a community organization, and I just love the impact of this organization.
Well, I'm thinking about this last year and the ripple effect of health overall, right? With and then thinking about the overlap of community health and essential frontline workers, and people that many of those essential frontline workers did not have traditional company sponsored healthcare. And so how all of this is woven together. And thinking about the services that y'all were providing and the absolute equity and inclusivity of this, you were, when you say we don't turn anyone away.
Right.
Can you talk just a little bit about that? I don't even know what that question is, MJ.
I know, it's mind blowing. You think about it, especially in the pandemic that we're still currently in, but it's getting better. You think about, this populations, they are the ones who had to go out to work. They are the ones getting COVID. So how do we help them? And San Ysidro, one of the great things I noticed when I first started is they are kind of a one-stop shop. So in their centers, they have dentists. they have health care, they have mental health care. I mean, they have acupuncture, they have chiropractics, they have psychologists, they have pediatrics, and they have a great LGBTQI plus program. So when the frontline workers are coming, most of the time, or some of the times, you think, you know, they can get all of their services done at one spot. And that's very important, because sometimes there is no money for bus fare across town, or there is no time to go from one appointment to another appointment to another appointment. There is no time to do that. And then also, San Ysidro has been vaccinating in the neighborhoods. We bring the vaccinations to them. We don't ask them to come, oh, we're going to do this. We come to their neighborhoods, which is so, so important. Actually, I participated in a vaccination clinic last weekend. We did in the AAPI neighborhood, just specifically because we want to make sure that we are available to them. We come to them. That is so important.
So I want to back up to something that you said that I think many people forget. If I am a frontline hourly worker and I'm making minimum wage, and perhaps I am working several jobs, or if I'm experiencing homelessness, or if I, you know, literally the time to go have your teeth cleaned, get your vaccine, have the care that you need, see somebody for a mental health issue, that is money out of your pocket that you may be having to choose between food or electrical or the internet, or, you know, any number of those things. So this, when we're talking about something very fundamental in terms of our ability to show up, work, and get care, the idea that you have everything in one, and I want us to consider that in every organization. How are you supporting the people that the time that they have to do something other than work, they may be making trade-offs?
Absolutely, that's true. And you have to think about the hours that, you know, the frontline workers work. I mean, they work a full day from like 9 to 5. So evening hours or morning hours are very important. Again, on the weekends, bringing services to them, being open for them. So I agree with you. It's very important to understand that if you are there, provide everything that you can to support the patient, and in my case, but even a employee or a colleague. Make sure you have what they need, when they need it, how they need it. And how they need it is very important, because language here in San Diego, so I'm new to San Diego, and I was looking at the demographics of San Diego, you know, a big population of Spanish speakers, Latina, Hispanic, but there's also a big population of Chaldeans here. They have their own language, Vietnamese. And so making sure that you have someone there who looks like them, who can speak their language, or that there's a call-in center that they can call, that someone speaks their language, is so important because health is everything. If these frontline workers are sick, then they can't go to work. That means they can't provide for their family. And, culturally wise, families take care of families. So everyone works to maintain their household. So it's so important. I'm learning so much about healthcare and community and what it means to be healthy. Since a little bit, understanding the it before St. Isidro, but now really getting to understand.
Well, and I think, I'm gonna flip it back to the employer side. What are you doing so that people aren't having to make those trade-offs?
That's right.
Right? Are you providing paid time off for people to get these essential services that they need so that they can show up healthy in mind, body, and spirit, if you will,
Right.
in any sort of work setting? Um, I'm curious if you've seen sort of what the threads you've seen, MJ, in the different organizations. Excuse me, my allergies are killing me right now. The pollen is literally blowing off the trees. Um, the thread that you've seen in DEI, just across, you said you've worked at the Y, you've worked different places. There's some things that are ubiquitous. And I'm curious what you're seeing. And I one of them that we mentioned was language and how powerful language is to inclusion. I'd love to hear some of the others.
So I think, biases are very important. And they show up in the most unique and sometimes crazy ways. And that's across any organization. That's just the person that you are. But it impacts DEI so muand that, we always hear that, Starbucks is doing, unconscious bias training, and this organization, and it's kind of, some people might think it's rhetoric, but it is absolutely needed. Folks have to understand how their biases, we all have them. It's not a dirty word. We all have them, how they affect the day to day, the way you engage with your employees, the way you engage with your team, the way you engage with your organization, the way you engage with, your personal, in your personal life. But these things impact, especially organizationally wise, impact DEI in our programs, our initiatives, especially, the middle management section of organizations. Now, I will say across the organizations that I work with, this is the population that really, really promotes and ingrains DEI into the organization. Yes, leadership can, be for it, talk about it, be great supporters, but the folks actually doing the work, actually supervising, actually the frontline stuff, there is your sweet spot. So for me, understanding your biases, understanding how to, recognize them when they pop up, because, it's quick. It's how you're raised, it's what you're thinking, and how to mitigate them, a bit. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, but I think once this training is not a one, okay, I've had unconscious bias training, I'm good. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to go on to ongoing training. And once you hear these things consistently, then you begin to understand, oh, wait a minute. I'm being, I'm not looking at this in a, way that's not biased. I'm not doing this annual review with this person who has different background, has different religion, has different culture than mine. And so maybe their thoughts on and how they work and how they participate is very different than mine.
I love that. And we say you have to actively be hacking your biased brain every day. right? You are never done. You are never not biased. Brain function,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Brain function. So, and we often talk about the 3 C's of curiosity, courage, and consistency. So
Yes,
having the curiosity to question your own thinking and say, what's the bias here?
right.
Having the courage to actually do something about it, right? And interrupt, and then consistently asking that question, right? How is my bias, or how is systemic bias impacting right now what we're doing?
Absolutely. And a lot of that, cultural competence is also a part of that. Being, curious, as you said, about others and trying to understand. In my experience, I've gotten some really crazy questions about my hair, but asking the right way, I have no problem saying this, or what's your background? You look like you're, multiracial. Absolutely. Here's, a little bit of history about myself. That builds a relationship for one thing, but it helps, your colleagues, understand who you are as a person culturally. Just by looking at me, you would, you really don't know me. You don't know my history, my experiences growing up, where I grew up. For example, most people, consider me a city girl. I do love the city. I mean, a city girl. I love, design. But actually, I was born and raised in West Virginia in a small town. I got out of there, but still, this is, you wouldn't know that about me unless we had a conversation. So, that helps people understand your culture and your history and what you're about, and maybe your religious background if you choose to, talk about that. So that's also important, building those relationships, understanding where, your bias kicks in. That's when you said, hey, let me ask a question. Let me get to know this person. So those biases, are, lessened about me, engaging with this person.
What's interesting, you talked about cultural competence, and I'm actually right in the middle of creating some content for the app that is specific to healthcare, and digging in not just on cultural competence, but cultural agility and cultural humility.
Absolutely.
Right. And all 3 of those. And I think, although we're writing this content for healthcare, again, it's going to be appropriate in so many settings, right? To have that cultural humility that I'm never done.
Right.
And I need to continue to be surprised, and I need, in a positive way, right, about my learning, and I need to stay appropriately curious, um,
Absolutely.
and not the MJ, where are you really from, right?
Right. Oh
That
my gosh.
that that's not the curiosity we're talking about.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Something I think about, when I worked at the Y, that happens, but also I see it manifesting in the healthcare industry, is our Muslim population. So we had some Muslim women who wanted to learn how to swim, but of course they can't swim with men, in the room, or men lifeguards. So the YMCA created a program just for Muslim women, covered the windows, and had women lifeguards, and they learned how to swim. That's what you do as an organization. You go to them, you provide your services for them. The same in the healthcare industry. Muslim women, may not want to be seen by a male doctor. So you have to make sure that, and how would you know that? How are our frontline staff engaging and asking questions and making sure that they're providing the best, most culturally competent, unbiased healthcare, that we can. So those are the, I just have so much adoration for the folks asking the questions, setting the appointments, making sure that we're providing them the care that they need and want, and, that we can make sure they are healthy.
What are some of your this I'm coming way out of you don't know where this one's what are some of you what are some of your favorite questions, MJ, when it comes to just understanding who somebody is so that you can create a sense of inclusion and belonging for them?
I've had many staff over the years. And so one of the big things, more than asking questions, is I listen.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to the conversations, and it's not always in the, organizational, team setting. Sometimes it's outside of that.
Right.
Absolutely. But I listen to my team, and then I watch who's talking, who's not talking, and engage with them, because introverts, which I call myself a bit of an introvert, like I have a switch, but after a period of time, I have to dial it back or I'm just exhausted. But those introverts that want to say something, but they're scared, so then that triggers me to go to them one-on-one. So, and then ask the questions, hey, you're in the meeting, what did you think about this? And then understand, because it could be that their, experience, their culture, may not, they just don't speak up in groups, and that's fine. Or another question I know that I've been asked is, not, well, where are you really from? But your experience on this project is great. Where does that experience come from? And then they start talking, and then, then other questions arise. But, as I said, I've had many, many questions asked of me. And here late in the last few years, when it's not asked nicely, I choose not to answer.
Absolutely.
But if I can tell you're really genuine and want to know, I'll explain anything, any question. But that's a couple of the questions that, that I've asked my staff, that has been asked of me. Let me see if I can think of anything else.
I love that. Where does that experience come from?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I often share my mistakes on this series because I think it's important, right? Like we're all, one of my favorite questions used to be, where'd you grow up?
Yeah.
Right? Because where'd you grow up for me was all about like, where'd you grow up? Were you, well, there was so much white privilege in that question.
A little, yeah.
Right? Because for me, it was born out of this curiosity. If you've been asked that question in a way that's like, where are you really from? Right? Where that's the tone behind it. Where'd you grow up? Isn't that different? So, and you don't know me and you don't know my intent. So my used to be go-to white privilege favorite question, I don't ask anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And I love, because even if most people were okay with it, if I had a couple people that were like, really, you're asking me where I'm from? Right. Because they've been asked that so many times.
Right.
Not worth it. So I love the idea of, where'd you get that experience?
Right. Absolutely. And I've just seen, especially and really engaging, I'm just a big proponent of making sure your team or your project team or whoever you're working with, they're diverse. So you have that experience around the table. And so, and again, sometimes I just sit back and listen to the banter and to the experience and to the ideas that never even crossed my mind. I'm like, wow. Just for example, where so I'm 90 days in and we're doing listening sessions next month, because I really want to hear from the staff. And, this is a healthcare organization. We're really, really busy. So I did put out a schedule for all month, all times, mornings, afternoons, evenings. And a supervisor came to me and said, hey, I'm going to take my whole team offline. And I want to know if you can, just do a session for just my team. I never even thought of that. I was like, absolutely. So we worked out. So her whole team is going, because again, getting the hourly workers, getting those frontline workers is going to be difficult. I actually sent a additional email to the managers and supervisors and say, hey, I need your support on this. Send your frontline staff, make it happen. Yeah. So for me, diversity thought around the table is so, so important.
Well, and there's so much joy in it, I have to say. Like, I love when there's something for me when it's like, I never would have thought of it that way.
Absolutely.
Like, that's just like, those are magic moments to me. I have heard a theme from you, MJ, that is about moving toward and going to, and the directional nature of things. And I would just love for you to, right where you're saying we bring our, right, we're bringing the COVID vaccines to the community. I'm bringing these things to my team. And I think that is really, really fundamental.
Absolutely.
And is there a way that, it just seems like it's hardwired in you.
Working at the
always been that way. Like, have you always been like having this understanding to being to, right? Instead of having people come to you, or services that you are bringing forward.
I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit about how my parents raised me, but and I mentioned the YMCA because the YMCA had a big impact on my life and my career and how I work. Really, it really kind of changed that. I understood that, communities are important, and if you're going to be a community organization, you have to understand your community. If you understand your community and know that, some of them may just have enough to pay to get to work and back, bus fare, or really their work hours are from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then overtime if they can get it. How are we going to impact? How are we going to bring these services to you? You've got to think about that. And San Ysidro does a good job of that. The Y did a good job of that. You have, and for me, you really have to think about others and not yourself, and really understand your community and who's in your community and how they work and where they work. So I don't know. I just, community is what makes, for me, this position helps for me. What I'm doing helps my employees, which helps the patients who are part of the community, which helps the city, which helps the state. I just want, to make sure when I get up in the mornings that I play a role in making this world eventually a better place for my little part that I'm doing at San Ysidro Health.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times, particularly when things, when things are challenging or things, I'll say to the team, I'm like, we're just trying to change the world. Right?
Absolutely.
Just trying to change the world.
And you have to start where you are. You have to start where people are, but you have to start with your team, with yourself, with, understanding who you are as a person. And again, learning your biases and knowing when they're going to kick in. That's the start of it. And I've met so many. I've been on so many teams and met so many people that I've seen such growth when it comes to DEI and understanding it and really engaging their staff and making it a point to be more inclusive, to make sure their staff feel like they belong. It's very important because that makes, as we, there's been plenty of studies, organizations that do that are better off, are more profitable, are make the greatest, invent the greatest things because of that.
Yeah. All right. One last truth bomb.
All right.
Dropped so many.
There's something that, I've been at San Ysidro for 90 days, but something during my interview process, something that hit me that I was hearing a lot, when I was interviewing is, oh, you're like a great fit. You would fit our culture. You would fit. And I started thinking, you know what? I want to be a great addition to your team. I don't want to be fit because that's like everyone else. And that's not what organizations need now. They need someone who can come in again with open eyes, different eyes. Again, my background is not in healthcare, and challenge things. And so I want to be a good addition to your team. I would rather not be a good fit.
Right. Be an ad.
Yeah.
So, of course, my phone is going off on us. Thought I had it on. Well, that's a good way to wrap up, MJ, right? A little bit. This has been amazing. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So much.
Thank you for inviting me. Anytime, this is my passion. This is not something that, I do in the office. And then when I get, home, it's something, this is exactly. Take this hat off at home and say, I'm done with DEI.
Yeah, no, it's something that we live, breathe, sleep, eat, isn't
Absolutely.
it? So, and thank you for the amazing work you do. Thank you for the amazing work your organization does.
Absolutely.
Everybody, lean into this, go to and toward like MJ does, and get out there and do the next right thing. We will see you all next week. Thanks.